1. Okay. I'm just going to wait for a moment to see whether the stream is going online, but it should be up right now. It's going to have like 20 seconds delay. Yeah, there it is. I can see you twice now. Hi, we're joined by Mark Rein-Hagen today, and usually this goes by, this guest doesn't need any introduction, but just shortly, if you ever happen to Google Mark Rein-Hagen, you're going to look at a lot of stuff about vampires.
That's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nico just looked in. I was kind of surprised that we're already streaming. But I'm seeing people in the chat, so people are seeing us. Everything's working out. So let us know if anything with picture or with the sound is amiss. But I think it's going to work out nicely. So hi, Mark. Great to see you and talk to you again.
Nice to see you. How are you doing?
I'm great. Yeah, I've been really looking forward to talking to you all day. How are you in Tbilisi?
Yeah, I've been excited about this as well. It's sort of my first chance to sort of really get in depth on talking about this new project, which you know, is my favorite part of every project. Just sort of getting to map it out and come up with 1,000 new ideas a day, you know, and throwing away most of them, but still being enriched by the ones that you can keep and fit into the jigsaw puzzle, you know.
Yeah, and that's what you've been doing for the past months. You've only just basically announced that there's going to be a new game called Fang Night and a setting called LOSTLORN, but you've been churning along, finding ideas and finding a team for quite a while now.
Yeah. Well, you're an important part of the team.
Somehow it happened. I don't know.
Well, your ideas have just been invaluable, and your creative input and clever poking in the right places and asking the right questions at the right times, which is really the key thing. You know, people forget, you know, how much, you know, you need to sort of creatively question what you're doing.
Yes. And I very much love working with the team that you've put together, because that's what's happening all the time. And I admit I was shy at first, because most people in the team, and especially you, have done so many things before. And I was just the new girl.
Yeah.
Can I tell people if I think this idea could maybe need a little tweaking? But honestly, you've been very generous working with you and very open.
Oh, thank you. Well, my you know, my #1 rule for myself is that ancient rule of kill your darlings, which is, you know, your favorite part of an idea, your favorite thing in a book, your favorite plot twist or character or place. You know, go ahead and kill it and see what happens, you know, and don't be afraid to do that, because sometimes it opens up so much more. And I think that trains you to be really open to other people and their ideas. And then also, of course, we both come out of the role-playing world. And the beautiful thing about role-playing is it's intensely collaborative.
Yeah.
You know, and so you have a storyteller, let's say, but you also have all the players, and you're telling the story, creating the world together, you know. And I think that's we can't forget that, and we have to live up to our past and our ideals of the role-playing way.
It's working out great so far. Let's get into the meat of the project. What is Fang Night, or what is the core idea behind the game?
Okay, so LOSTLORN is the world, it's the setting. And Fang Night is the first of 5 games that'll be coming out. It'll be set in this world, and it's a fantasy horror vampire game. Fang Night is, and then we'll be doing other monster games as it goes along. So the next one will be probably werewolf, and there'll be a lick, a zombie type thing, and then 2 more. And but the difference is, of course, this is not the world of darkness. This is the fantasy world. You know, low magic but high mythic. Sort of, you know, Game of Thrones dialed up to 10. So it's still low magic, But what Game of Thrones proved is you can do realistic and low magic and still have these fantastical things and not lose that quality of the low magic and the realism. And so I think we're trying to take that mythic quality, just go all the way with it, with having a flat world and a world tree, and the stars are actually god realms that are giant rocks that can come down to earth. And this only happened, of course, in the myths, but supposedly it could happen again. And so by doing this, I think we can create a really beautiful and evocative world that doesn't feel silly like so many cheap fantasy does. And I really don't like cheap fantasy that much, unless it's complete just silly and fun. Like, as a kid, I read Xanth.
Oh yes, I love them.
And I loved his creativity. But now I just, I'm a horror guy, right? And horror does not work if it's funny or if it's frivolous. Horror kind of needs a little grit. It needs a little realism.
Yeah. And
so,
oh,
go ahead.
Sorry, no. I wanted to talk about the fact that it is a pretty fantastical work, because a lot of things that are kind of metaphor are going to be real, like you said, the flat Earth and the world tree that is actually a giant tree that's having roots all through the landmass you're playing on.
Yes, I love that. Was your idea of having the roots pop up everywhere? I love
really?
that.
I keep forgetting whose idea.
Well, it doesn't matter. I have to try to remember, because as the sort of the storyteller or a group, it's important that later on I can give credit, and remember. So I try to remember these things a little bit. But yeah, the roots coming up everywhere. A castle being built in the nest of a root, or a whole kingdom, being lucky because it has so many roots, or its boundaries are defined by roots. That to me is just lovely. I think that's great. But yeah, it's a really, really big tree. It's not just the world tree; it's the world oak, and there are entire kingdoms, located on its branches. So yeah, it's big.
Someone's asking whether this is going to be a system setting combination. So let's talk a little bit about the open gaming license deal of the whole thing.
I thought, should I make another game system? And I was like, no. What I want to do is focus on the setting and focus on the horror and focus on the characters and all of that. And so really the easiest way to do that is to take the game system that everyone basically knows. Right? Like, even if you don't know 5e, you still know Dungeons & Dragons. Simplify it in some key ways. Add a couple things here and there. Make the combat a little bit more interactive, but still, and make the whole system a little bit, in character creation, a little bit more storyteller. Like, we have dots. I mean, it's still gonna be D&D, but there are, don't ask how, but I've already figured it out. It will have dots, which I think is kind of funny. Anyway, it's just a means to an end. It's not anything more than that. But I do actually like 5e. I think they did a great job, and I really admire the guys at Wizards of the Coast for what they did with it, because it's the first sort of version of D&D that I have actually run a campaign with since Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. I mean, it's been a long time, folks. Yeah. And I like it.
It has changed a bit. It has become a little bit more storytelling-like, actually, in 5e, I think. A little bit easier, streamlined to actually tell something. Oh, yeah. I think the follow-up question is, can we play Castlevania with it? But there's a smiley, so probably.
Okay, yeah, no.
No, Castlevania. The vampires are going to play a pretty interesting and important role in the whole setting. Can you go a bit into what the core idea of that is and how vampires are going to work? They're not going to be hidden as in masquerade hidden.
It's the werewolves who live as noble lords and pretend that they're human, and so they have a masquerade. But the vampires are very much in the open. People know they exist, and they're part of the noble class because they perform a very important service. First of all, the youngest children of noble families are often sent to go study with them because, you know, you have these big families and you know, you need to get rid of the kids somehow. So sending them to the vampires is it's like sending a kid to the church, you know? It's a way to get rid of an extra kid. You know, they're not going to inherit, so you got to do something with them. But also many fire holes, which is the places where these amaranth live, are located around hellholes, which are these vents, these maws into the underworld. And in LOSTLORN, you know, everything is quite literal. There are no parallel worlds. Heaven is not another place. They didn't have this concept in the medieval or ancient worlds at all. Okay, hell was straight up to them, and I mean, hell was straight down to them. Heaven was straight up, and that's the way it is in LOSTLORN. And so this vent is literally a portal to hell, and so they need protection from that because every once in a while, evil shit comes pouring out of that and attacks Earth, and so the vampires have sort of become the protectors. So a firehold is essentially an inside-out castle. I mean, it has outside walls as well, but its main fortifications are around the hellhole, and you know, people come to them and basically, you know, pay a portion of the stuff they collect to go down there and explore it. And they can fight the different zombies and what they have there, or go deeper and actually go into the demon realms. So it's a whole setting, it's a whole part of the world down there that we'll be getting into in the 4th and 5th games. But as a dungeon type thing, it's something you can do right away. So you can play the game as sort of a dungeon type game if you want, or you know, you can play it much more of a storyteller intrigue type game. It's really up to the players what they want to do.
Yeah, because the fire holes, they encompass this fighting aspect, keeping hell down there or going down into hell to fight. But they're also schools, and they're also places for people who don't really fit somewhere else in the world, for the weird and the strange people of the world.
Yeah, it's Hogwarts for people who don't fit in, you know. So if you are a leper, or you are someone who you know, has a strange disease, or you have a strange curse in your family, you know, everyone kind of knows a firehold is like the one place where you can be accepted. And so you know, I think I love this aspect of the firehold, that it's sort of the place where you know, the weird people like me can go and find a little place where, you know, maybe they'll fit in with the other weird people.
There's questions about powers, and basically I think about what vampires will be able to do and how that's going to work.
Yeah, the only spellcasters I'm thinking now, this could change, will be the vampires. So essentially they're like a type of wizard, but the magic system is different than D&D, and you have more flexibility with spells, and you certainly don't forget your spells when you use them or anything like that. It's a much more powerful thing. But the vampire, there'll be 7 different. We're calling them covens for now, but I think that's going to change. But they're different, you know, lineages, and each one will have a different sort of specialty. And basically, we're probably not going to be that worried about your normal D&D thing of balance, you know, because you can play normal humans. You can play what we're calling, what's the latest word we came up with? Badlander or
Wayfarer. I think Wayfarer was the last try to find the right word.
Badlander or Wayfarer is the name of the mortal companions who belong to one of the 7 Wayfarer guilds, which are the guilds that are concerned with things that happen outside of the sacred church lands, you know, out in the beyond. And that definitely includes a firehold, which is very much outside of the sacred, you know, church area, even though it's often inside of a sacred kingdom. It's like a little spot of profane inside the sacred.
We should talk about sacred and profane.
Yes.
Because we're using the words now, and they're very much part of the whole concept, but I think we should explain them.
Okay, yeah, sacred and the profane is sort of like the good and evil of this world, but it goes beyond that. I guess if you saw it as an alignment chart, it would be sacred and profane, justice and mercy. But sacred is basically the sacred church, and they basically strive to chase magic away. So any kind of magic or weirdness is very difficult to do anywhere where the Templars and the sacred church are basically putting up wards and building churches and have bells, and basically magic is incredibly hard to do among people who are sacred believing, and it's a storytelling magical world, which we'll get into in a second. But anyway, the profane church is sort of the older church, which is sort of opposed, and there's a whole religious war going on now between the sacred church and the profane church. The profane church is much more naturalistic. It doesn't believe in buildings. The adherents believe you cannot worship, inside, and so it has this whole different thing. But the sacred and the profane church are united in one thing, and that their highest holiday is the middle of summer, when you have the long day. And the long day is once a year you have a 7 day long sun. It doesn't get dark for 7 days. And then in the middle of the night is the most fearful time of year, and that's when you have 7 days of no sun at all. And so these are both sort of weird festivals they have to sort of celebrate, but it's also the long night is when really bad things tend to happen and people are very afraid.
Oh, there are a few more questions actually. One is about is from someone who says he or she was one of the testers on your table in Istanbul, and was happy to get into I Am Zombie early on. And the question is whether there's going to be people who can get their hands on the docs for LOSTLORN and Fang Night early on, and when will things be
well, actually,
out there?
doing a Patreon where you can get involved in not only reading and writing, but you can get involved in writing and contributing and talking and being part of the creative process. I want to broaden this collaboration very greatly, and then hopefully use the Patreon money to actually pay people to help create it. Obviously I have to bring home some money to my wife, so she'll let me do this full time. But then beyond that, I definitely want to share the wealth of it and really make this a collaborative process. So I'll be announcing that very soon, the whole Patreon thing, and it will be a very reasonable amount, so people who are who don't have a whole lot of money can still, take part.
Okay, so you're going to set that up when soon-ish?
Dates.
Just very, very rough dates.
Yes, probably. Let's say in a week.
Oh, okay. That was actually sooner than I expected.
Yeah, I've done it all. I've written it all. I'm just terrified to start it. That's all.
Okay.
I've written the whole thing. It's ready to go. I'm just scared. I don't like asking for money. I just have a weird hang up about it.
I get that. As someone who's part of a team with a Patreon, it still baffles me.
Yeah.
And it's still hard for me to ask people to join. Yeah, I totally get that. There's also the question, will there be Lovecraftian stuff too? And I think you can answer that with a big yes.
Yes. Well, actually, today we just worked on the cult of the something void, of the
Unseeing Void or the Blind God, something along those lines.
Yeah, the dying eyeless god.
Yeah.
Oh shoot! I can't believe I forgot the name of the cult. Such a good name too.
Let me just cheat and look up the chat where that happened. Yeah, but there's we're not directly Lovecraftian stuff that's going on, so no Cthulhu, but there's definitely cosmic horror stuff. Void Eaters.
Yes.
We got Void Eaters somewhere here in the chat.
Yeah. So basically, they're trying to wake up the dying god, upon which this whole world is sort of built on top of the dying god, and they want to do that because they've done so many sins that it's the only way they can not be tortured eternally in hell. We're not keen for paying for our sins because we plan on doing many more. Yeah.
which is not very good motivation, but one I can at least understand for the big bads.
Yeah, yeah, and I did love your idea about the, there's certain void tempest creatures you can't look at, because if you do, you will become as unreal as they are, and that there is a sort of a certain truly horrifying idea that, as you get on the outskirts of reality, that you will become unglued and unhinged and lose your sense of yourself, and eventually just sort of dissolve into the murk as they are. They're made up of different parts of things that sort of got too close to the god and became constituent parts, which to me is pretty terrifying. I don't know.
Yeah, I like these kind of concepts that are just like that would make for an unusual horror film. Movie kind of thing, like never showing the monster, which some movies have done now, and it works out well. So,
and of course, if you're writing a novel, which we are, you have to think about the TV show or the movie. I mean,
you're immediately thinking about the TV show and the movie.
No, I mean, honestly, from the day one of this whole project, I was thinking about how can this be a fantastic TV show, because I have a feeling that Amazon's $1 billion, new Game of Thrones series, as much as I pray it's awesome, not Game of Thrones, they're doing Lord of the Rings. They paid $1 billion to do Lord of the Rings. Is that I just don't think it's going to be good. I just have a feeling about it. And the new Game of Thrones series, I'm worried about that as well. So I think everyone's been wanting a really good. I think fantasy is back for good, and and also vampires, I think, have been done to death in the modern world. Like everyone took vampires, from largely a lot of it from me. They all borrowed so much from the social aspects of Vampire the Masquerade, and they did it. And now it's a modern-day vampire TV show or movie series. It's been done to death. But you know what? A medieval, a fantasy vampire, that's a much less used up space. There's so much more room there. And it just feels wonderful to be back doing vampire stuff, but yet in such a new way. And it's not Mythic Europe. I mean, I love Mythic Europe. I love Vampire Dark Ages. That's all based on what I did with Ars Magica and the Mythic Europe I did with Ars Magica. And I love using historical Europe. Oh my God, I love it. But you know what? When you're using reality, it's really difficult for some people who don't have a lot of knowledge of history. They don't know quite what to do. They feel frozen. They're not sure how to describe things or what's going on, and they feel like everyone's going to laugh at them if they get something wrong. Whereas if you do it in a pure fantasy world, well, gosh, you can do whatever you want. Well, my LOSTLORN's like this. Don't ask questions, And that's the wonderful thing about role-playing, and especially Dungeons & Dragons, which has always had this tradition of not only can the Dungeon Master, but anyone playing the game can make up stuff. And it's okay. You can change the world by a single sentence you make as a player, right? As a character, you can change, and everyone goes, "Oh, that's cool. Yeah, okay, let's go with that. Sure." And boom, you change the world. Oh, I love that. I think it's fantastic.
And now it's going to do historical nitpicking with your setting.
Yes.
Yeah. People are still asking when and how and in what form these things are going to appear. So you've mentioned that you're planning for a series of games in the same setting. Yeah,
so basically, as soon as Patreon is set up, basically that determines the speed. The more money, I mean, if it's just enough money for me to work on it, it's going to take a long time, right? But if we have enough money to hire people and do things, then it'll be speeded up quite a bit. So that's what I'm hoping for, is we make enough to sort of really have a good thing going. Also depends on how much people get involved. Like hopefully, like with I Am Zombie, we had really a great community going with that. And it was really quite amazing. People were contributing, were writing stuff, and it was absolutely just amazing just to see the creativity and the stuff happening. And I would love to see that happen again, only this time in a more organized and structured way.
Okay. People working with and for you on this thing. Let's talk a little bit about the team that you have on board so far. I've made a list.
Okay, great.
Yes, I'm kind of prepared. So I've already seen Roque in, I hope I got the name right, Roque, in the chat, asking for a Portuguese version because he's from Brazil.
Absolutely. If someone will translate it, we can totally do it, even if it's not English.
And yeah, Neil is also part of the team. So Roque, you invited because, to quote, he has the most disturbing visions or ideas.
Yeah, it's just, his ideas are extremely disturbing.
That's a good job qualification. Disturbing ideas. What's Neil doing?
Neil is very good at taking ideas apart and inspecting their constituent parts and making sure that they fit together correctly. That's sort of his specialty. We have Travis, who is actually a real knight. He actually jousts and competes as a knight and lives part of his knight life as a full-on knight. So he was actually inspiration for using the word knight in the name. And some of our team, by the way, don't like Fang Knight. So please comment on my page. If you love that name or hate it, please let me know, because I kind of love it and hate it. And you know, and so I want to hear from people about that name. LOSTLORN, that's a done deal. I love LOSTLORN. There's nothing wrong with it.
Okay, that's not going to change.
No, I don't think so. It's just too good. It's just easy to say, and it's beautiful. And I own the URL. So
and
lost.com, you know, how can you go wrong? Fang Knight, I also own, and that's actually a big consideration. The name is I wanted a name I could own. You know, if I could own Blood Knight, we probably would have called it Blood Knight. But unfortunately, someone else owns bloodknight.com.
I'm not going to Google that right now, but I will later. As for people who don't love Fang Knight as a title, Oliver Hoffmann is on board.
And everyone in Germany should know Oliver. He's actually been the sort of the main vampire translator and sort of German friend of mine since I was nobody, since I think I met him, you know, very, very early on when Vampire basically first came out, and he wrote and said, hey, can I translate? And I was like, awesome. Yeah. So yeah, I've known Oliver for a long, long time. And, you know, he's pretty well known in the German scene. Yeah.
Yeah. He was head of Feder und Schwert. And they brought the World of Darkness games to Germany, and they also did some other games who have a fan followership, a very strong one still today, like Angel. Yeah, so Oliver, you should know him.
Yes.
People out there should know him in Germany. Who else we've got? Larry Bernard.
Yeah, Bernard is a guy with sort of encyclopedic knowledge of games, comic books, anime. He basically is the go-to guy for understanding or knowing any antecedents or any sort of things that may have happened before. You know, when you're working so hard on being creative, you need someone to tell you, oh, that's been done here in this way by this person. And otherwise you can go full steam ahead against your brand new idea and without realizing you have to sort of change the idea yet again to make it truly new. And I'm a firm believer that people get very, very excited when they open a book and it's just chock full of new ideas. Not maybe completely new ideas, but new variations on ideas, because of course there's nothing completely new. But that's what makes a game or a book or a movie really interesting, when it just has new stuff in it. It makes you come alive. So anyway, that's what he does. Um,
Then we've got Chris. Oh God, Magistry.
yeah, he's
Chris.
our Italian game design pro. He knows mechanics and Vampire. And Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition very well.
So he's the one who's going to take all your ideas and try to fit them somewhere into the rules.
Hopefully, indeed.
And we've got C.A. Suleiman.
Yeah, he has worked with me for a while. I know him, and he basically knows the history of role playing quite well, especially the history of role playing I missed because I kind of left the industry for a while. So he's been useful that way. And then we have Mark Kelly, who is should be known to most people. He's sort of the art director of Make Believe Games, and he does a lot of art for Vampire and a lot of different companies. And he just had a fantastic Kickstarter with his dice, his Art Deco dice.
Yeah.
So he brings some fantastic skills. So. And then hopefully we're going to expand this list, and we're going to have a lot more people as it goes along. Hopefully,
we also have Seth Blevins and John Bonar in the chat. This has been mostly a very confusing and very long chat discussion. The work it's been done so far.
Yes. John is a computer expert. Does a lot of stuff with. We need with that, and Seth is sort of general advice. So,
yeah, and then there's me. So we said it at the beginning of this. This is not going to be an objective interview in any kind of way because we're working on this together, and we're going forward with this together. And I'm really hoping that everything works out because I actually really love working with you. It was a great experience the last few months, bashing ideas back and forth and chiming in with new stuff.
Yeah. This is probably my favorite thing to do in the world. Is to just dig down so deep and just try to create something that is new. It's just incredibly fun. So thank you for being part of it. It's been great.
Yeah,
honestly. I think we're going to come up with something absolutely astounding. I really do. Like with this, I haven't really seen anything like this before.
Well, thank you so much for asking me to be on the team and how that developed. It was a great surprise for me, and I'm very happy to be on the staff, so to say. Yes. We thought we'd do like half an hour. Just a nice little snippet with the basic ideas of what is going to happen with LOSTLORN and with Fang Night. So if there are no burning questions left in the chat, we're going to end this rather soon. But I'm trying to get you over here to Germany for two reasons. First, you realized you've never seen Oliver's collection of fine spirits.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. He literally said, folks, I can't buy any more because I would never be able to drink what I have in my lifetime. Which to me is like, wow.
And I'd love to just get you in front of a real camera, not just a webcam, and talk about this a lot more. And if you have to do a little let's play, actual play session, and look at how LOSTLORN works out, because you've done test plays already with LOSTLORN and with the rule set as it is so far, and several other people on the team have done so too, right?
Yeah. I'm actually playing with my kids.
Okay.
It would be good to play with adults. Kids are great because you make sure the rules are simple enough, right, that anyone can understand them. And my kids are on the younger side, so it's great though.
Yeah, and it also tells a bit about. There were questions about how much horror, how much darkness and grit there's going to be. There is going to be some, but it's going to be also. I think your idea was to also invite younger players to take a look at it. Yeah,
I'm thinking that people will be able to dial it up or down, either towards fantasy and adventure or more towards horror, and then also towards, you know, adventure or intrigue, or sort of very mature themes or less mature themes. So right now it looks like there'll be 2 different books. One will be the LOSTLORN Codex, which will be completely written in character, as if it was written by a sage seer who works at Sliving Maw Firehold, and he's giving these youngsters a book to explain the world to them. And so it's written, you know, by someone in the world, about the world, and it may have some more mature stuff in it, right? But then the Fang Knight book will be like the Player's Handbook, and it'll be written like the D&D book is, you know, for a more general audience, so that, you know, I just want to make sure we're not offending anyone or making any parents uncomfortable. And so we'll kind of maybe try to differentiate a little bit that way. But definitely we're not going to go for the kids so much that we're going to whitewash anything or you know, I mean, I'm just not into that. If we have to make a choice, you know, we'll put a no kids 18 and over on it, you know, if that's what it takes to do a true horror. But I don't think it does. I think horror is more conceptual than it is gore and visuals. And so I think you can scare the bejesus out of people and not offend parents or scare kids too much.
Yeah, and I think in the first GDD, the game developers document that that you shared in the group, it was that it's not kids, it's more like young adult, the section of that's going to be also of interest.
Kids for the most part will probably not be playing this, but we may at some point come up with a specific kids version. You know, hard to say, but I think definitely, you know, a parent who wants to play with their kids like I am, I don't think it would be a problem at all. You know, you just play it a little bit more like D&D and a little bit less like, you know, vampire and immortal, you know, perdition.
Yeah, last question, or rather, someone asking for character sheet that's going to be just 1 page and not too many.
Absolutely.
Too many calculations.
Yeah. Although I think vampires, they probably will have to have a backside, but I actually do have a concept for a character sheet. Gosh, I'm so proud of this. Hold on a second. I don't think I mentioned this in chat yet, but imagine this is an 8x10 piece of paper. My idea is you fold it like a name card, like you have on the table during conferences. So it's like this. See that? And that way, you put it on the table in front of you, and it has your name in front and stats that everyone else would know. It would have stats you absolutely need back here, and then you can unfold it and look at this side, and it has the stats that you need in detail. So basically, everyone has in front of them a little folded character sheet like this. I don't know if that's going to work, but I think it'd be really cool.
I like the fact that, you know, you're never going to forget the names of the other characters. It's
and as a game master, also, I want to know their stats so I can make a roll for them and not tell them what I'm rolling, right? As a storyteller, I want to be able to make, you know, their perception roll, their wisdom roll, without them knowing I'm making a perception roll. And if you have to ask them, what's your perception? You know, but this way I don't have to do that. And I don't have to have it down on a sheet of paper. It's all right there, you know?
That's nice. People in chat like the idea so far. So
it's not a for sure thing. It has to be play tested.
Yeah, lots of things are probably going to change, apart from the name LOSTLORN.
Yes, even Fang Knight can change, but yeah.
We're going to see. So, thank you so much for taking the time and talk about this. And yeah, we're going to follow this one up, talk about it a bit more, try to get you over here, and yeah, then we're going to look for the Patreon when it goes online. Thank you so much, Mark. Lovely talking to you, as always.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
And thank you, chat, for being with us. Goodbye and good day. Bye.